Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to kick off our session today. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of grammar, specifically focusing on the principal parts of irregular verbs. Our main goal is to unlock the secrets of verb tenses and improve our understanding of how these tricky verbs work. We'll explore what makes irregular verbs unique, look at their principal parts, and see how they fit into different tenses. So, get ready for an engaging journey into the heart of English grammar. Now, let's talk about the main idea on this slide. Every verb has three principal parts. These parts are essential because they form all the different tenses of a verb. First, we have the present tense, which is the base form of the verb. For example, words like walk, begin, go, and see are in their present form. These are used when we're talking about things happening now or regularly. Next, we move to the past tense. This form is used for actions that are completed in the past. So, for example, walk becomes walked, begin becomes began, go becomes went, and see becomes saw. These tell us that the action happened before now. Finally, there's the past participle. This is a special form of the verb used with has, have, or had to create perfect tenses. For instance, has walked, have begun, had gone, and has seen. These forms help us talk about actions that are connected to the present or are part of a completed action in the past. Understanding these three principal parts is key because they help us conjugate verbs correctly across all tenses and communicate clearly. They're the building blocks of verb forms, and mastering them makes your English much more precise and versatile. Now let's take a look at how regular verbs form their past tense and past participle. The key rule here is simple. Just add ed to the base form of the verb. For example, if we take the verb watch, in the present tense, I say, I watched the movie. When I want to talk about a past action, I change it to watched by adding ed. Similarly, for the past participle, I say, I have watched the movie. The most important thing to remember is that if a verb simply adds ed, it's a regular verb. Let's look at some more examples. For walk, the past tense is walked. For play, it becomes played. And for jump, it's jumped. Lastly, with talk, the past form is talked. This rule makes forming past tense and past participle quite straightforward for regular verbs, and it's a great foundation for understanding verb forms in English. Let's talk about irregular verbs, which I like to call the rule breakers. Unlike regular verbs, they do not add ed at the end in the past tense, so they refuse to follow that simple pattern we're used to. Instead, they break the rules completely. Most irregular verbs change their spelling entirely when we form the past and past participle. These changes can be quite unpredictable, so you can't rely on a set pattern here. That's why, to master them, you really need to memorize each verb and its different forms individually. Remember, irregular verbs are incredibly common and important in everyday English. Learning them is essential if you want to speak confidently and correctly. So, keep practicing and don't get discouraged. These rule breakers are just a bit more tricky, but totally manageable once you get the hang of them. Now, let's take a closer look at some common irregular verbs. These are essential because they often come up in everyday conversations and writing. Mastering these 8 verbs will really boost your confidence. First, we have become. The present is become, but the past is became, and the past participle is also become. Notice how it doesn't follow the regular pattern of just adding ed. Next up is begin. In the present, begin. The past is began, and the past participle is begun. Again, a completely different form. Then there's drink. We say drink in the present, drank for the past, and drunk as the past participle. Moving on to forget. The present is forget, the past forgot, and the past participle forgotten. For go, we use go now, went in the past and gone as the past participle. With know, the present is know, the past knew, and the past participle known. See becomes see in the present, saw in the past, and seen as the past participle. And lastly, take, present tense take, past took, and past participle taken. Now, here's a helpful tip. Notice how these irregular verbs change completely. They don't just add ed. This makes them a bit tricky but very important to learn, since they don't follow the regular pattern. Getting comfortable with these examples will really help you understand and use irregular verbs correctly in various contexts. Let's go through practice 1, which focuses on using the past tense. The goal here is to complete each sentence with the correct past tense form of the verb in parentheses. This exercise is great for reinforcing how we talk about actions that happened in the past. For example, the first sentence is about Mrs. Ochoa and her phone. The verb in parentheses is forget, so we need to use the past tense forgot. The full sentence becomes, Mrs. Ochoa forgot to charge her cell phone. Notice how we change forget to forgot to match the past tense. Next, we have Kenny and a turtle while kayaking. The verb is see, which becomes saw in the past tense. So the sentence is, Kenny saw a turtle while kayaking. Again, changing see to saw tells us this action happened in the past. The third sentence involves falling off a swing. The verb fall turns into fell in the past tense. So, I fell off the swing. It's a simple change but important for expressing past actions clearly. Then we have a team fighting hard to win a game. The verb fight becomes fought. So, the team fought hard to win the game. Notice the slight spelling change with fight to fought. Finally, the last sentence is about breaking a favorite toy. The verb break changes to broke. So, I broke my favorite toy. The key point here is that many irregular verbs have unique past tense forms, and practicing them helps us speak more confidently about past events. Remember, mastering these forms is essential for clear communication in past tense stories or descriptions. Let's look at practice 2, which focuses on using the past participle. This is an important part of perfect tenses in English. The key idea here is that when we complete these sentences, we need to choose the correct past participle form of the verb in parentheses. Remember, we also need to decide whether to use has or have based on the subject. For example, in the first sentence, Taylor and Kristen have known each other for years. Since Taylor and Kristen is a plural subject, we use have and the past participle of know, which is known. In the second sentence, Aisho has gone to the art exhibit twice this month. Here, Aisho is singular, so we use has and the past participle of go, which is gone. Similarly, in the third sentence, Jonathan has been to England once before. The past participle of be is been. In the fourth, I have forgotten about doing my homework. The past participle of forget is forgotten, and since I is singular, we use have. And finally, in the fifth, we have lost the championship game. The past participle of lose is lost. The main point here is to match the correct form of the verb with the right auxiliary, has or have, to correctly form the present perfect tense. This is a useful structure for talking about experiences, actions, or states that are relevant to the present. All right, let's look at practice 3, spot the correct form. This activity is all about identifying the correct irregular verb form to complete each sentence. You'll see a sentence with a blank, and your task is to circle the verb that fits best. Remember, irregular verbs don't follow the regular ed ending pattern, so they change in unique ways. For example, in question 1, we have I will you about my life. You need to choose between tell and told. Since we're talking about a future intention, tell is the correct choice here. In question 2, I my knee ligaments playing basketball. The correct answer is tore, because that's the past tense of tear, and it fits the context of an injury. Moving on to question 3, we very late at night. The correct form is swam, which is the past tense of swim. Next, question 4, the baseball player third base. The right answer is stole, the past tense of steal, indicating an action that happened in the past. Question 5 says, she allowed during her presentation. And here, spoke is the correct past tense of speak. Finally, in question 6, I a school uniform to school. The correct choice is wore, which is the past tense of wear. So the key points are: recognize irregular verbs by their unique past tense forms. Match the verb form to the context of the sentence, especially tense. Practice helps reinforce your understanding of these common but tricky verb forms. This activity is a great way to sharpen your skills in identifying and using irregular verbs correctly, which is essential for clear and accurate communication. All right, let's take a closer look at practice 4. What part is it? Here, we're focusing on identifying the principal part of the underlined verb in each sentence, whether it's present, past, or past participle. This is key because understanding the principal parts helps us form different verb tenses correctly. For example, in the first sentence, let's sing another song. The verb sing is in the base form, which corresponds to the present tense. In the second sentence, he has heard about the failed experiment. The verb heard is the past participle, used here with has to form the present perfect. Moving on, Indira left for Africa late Sunday afternoon uses left, which is the past tense. Next, I understood the speech, but I didn't agree with it. The verb understood is also past. And finally, after they had swept, they carried out the recycling. The verb had swept contains swept, which is the past participle, used in the past perfect tense. The key takeaway here is recognizing these principal parts to help us accurately identify verb tenses and use them properly in our writing and speech. All right, let's dive into the challenge on this slide. The key point here is to practice using irregular verbs in different tenses and forms, and to do so creatively and with fun. First, we have the past tense of write. An example would be, she wrote a letter to her friend. Now, your turn, think of a sentence using the past tense of write. Next, challenge 2 asks us to use the past participle of ride with have or has. For example, I have ridden my bike today. Your turn, come up with your own sentence using that form. Moving on, challenge 3 is to use the past tense of stand. An example here is, he stood on his toes to see. Now, craft your own sentence with the past tense of stand. Finally, challenge 4 involves the past participle of break, which we use with has or have. For example, they have broken the window. Think of a sentence that fits that pattern. The main idea here is to become comfortable with these irregular verbs in different contexts, making your language more dynamic and precise. Remember, having fun with it and being creative will help you remember these forms better. So to wrap up the irregular verb challenge, let's go over the key takeaways. First, remember the 3 principal parts of a verb. These are the present, past, and past participle forms, and they're essential because they help us navigate all the tenses. Next, regular verbs are a bit simpler. They follow a pattern by adding ed to form the past tense. It's a straightforward rule that makes regular verbs easier to master. However, irregular verbs are a different story. They change completely, so you really need to memorize their forms. There's no simple rule for all of them, which is why memorization is crucial. Also, don't forget about helping verbs. Always use a helping verb like has, have, or had when you're working with the past participle. This helps make your sentences clear and grammatically correct. And here's a pro tip: practice irregular verbs regularly. The more you use them, whether through flashcards, writing sentences, or speaking, the more natural they'll become. It's all about consistent practice to master these essential verb forms. Keep at it, and you'll find it gets easier over time. Thank you so much for being here today. You've learned the essential principal parts of irregular verbs, which is a big step forward in mastering English. Remember, practice is key, so keep practicing regularly to reinforce what you've learned. Staying consistent with your practice will help you become more confident and fluent. The goal is to master these verbs so they become second nature to you. Just a quick reminder, irregular verbs can be challenging because they don't follow the regular patterns, but don't worry, with enough practice, you'll get the hang of them. Keep at it, and you'll see improvement over time. Now, do you have any questions? I'd love to discuss anything that's on your mind or clarify any points.